Welcome back, focused learners. Today's explainer is a really fascinating one. We're diving into a profoundly insightful text all about the architecture of destiny. Basically, we're going to unpack this incredible premise, the idea that our inner world literally, and I mean methodically, builds our outer reality.
Let's start with a question we've all probably asked ourselves at some point, right? Why is it that some people just naturally attract good fortune while others are constantly, relentlessly facing setbacks? It's a huge existential question. But today, we're exploring a very specific answer. And what's cool is, this answer isn't based on some airy, abstract theory. It's derived directly from the source material's literal, ground-level observations of the natural world around us.
Section 1. Revelation of the Yard. Okay, let's dive right into this timeline. The author describes their organization's headquarters up in Canada, which features these massive front and rear yards. We're talking over 2,600 square meters each. Now, back in 2017, these yards were totally overgrown with high thatch and just debris. The result? Zero birds. Nothing. Fast forward to 2018, they started clearing the space out with a small mower. They didn't even finish the backyard, but just that partially cleared front yard suddenly started attracting crows and Canadian geese. Then, 2019 hits, they get a large mower and transform both yards into these lush, beautiful green lawns. And wow, this environmental shift brought in over 70 birds all at once, including literal flocks of hummingbirds. The author watched this and realized there was a powerful, direct cause and effect happening right outside their window.
And the story actually gets better over at their third branch, located down in a valley. The folks living there spent a whole year renovating their environment. They planted acres of wheat and specifically decided to leave a good portion of the fruit hanging on their persimmon trees. Now, when someone suggested, hey, you should probably figure out a way to stop the local birds from eating all your crops, the author replied, who eats it doesn't matter, let the birds eat it. And because of that very intentional choice to provide such an abundant environment, beautiful, chirping flocks of birds settled in that valley all year round. It completely transformed the vibe of the branch into this vibrant haven.
Which brings us to Section 2. The law of natural attraction.
You see, the source text points out that nature strictly follows this rule of matching environments to inhabitants. Nature makes no mistakes here. Mountains naturally attract tigers, right? Whereas wetlands are going to attract migratory birds. The author points out some pretty stark examples of this. Grasslands pull in wolves, jungles attract lions and leopards, and stagnant murky pools, they attract crocodiles. The physical environment completely, 100% dictates the type of inhabitant it draws in.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this phenomenon isn't just biology. It crosses right over into human society. Think about it. Historically, bad emperors attract treacherous villains, while wise emperors attract upright ministers and righteous people. In our day-to-day world, casinos naturally attract gamblers, battlefields attract soldiers, and art galleries attract artists. It's just a fundamental principle of attraction, based entirely on the conditions you provide.
So, let's shift gears to Section 3, the spiritual environment.
Let's define what we actually mean here, just so we're all on the same page. The spiritual environment is basically the inner landscape of a person's thoughts, their mindset, and the purity of their heart. And here's the big paradigm shift. The text posits that this inner landscape functions magnetically, exactly like a physical habitat. The logic is so simple but so profound. If the law of attraction applies to physical nature and human society, well, it absolutely applies to the human soul.
The author uses this really vivid sensory contrast to drive the point home. Imagine your spiritual environment is cultivated like a beautiful flower garden. Well, naturally, it's going to attract bees and butterflies, which represent positive, beautiful experiences. On the flip side, if your mind is foul and stinky, well, you're going to attract flies. Our mental state isn't just some private, isolated thing. It literally acts as an unavoidable magnet for what we experience in reality.
Now, the author even extends this logic into the supernatural realm, explaining phenomena like soul possessions. And we're impartially reporting the source's claims here, but it's fascinating. They strictly link the type of visiting spirit or deity to the purity of the host's mind. A pure, spotless, pristine environment is said to attract angels and gods. But actually, scratch that. It's more like a warning. Someone whose mind is obsessed with deliberately mystifying things or constantly dabbling in the occult, well, they attract ghosts and evil spirits. In this framework, the spiritual visitor perfectly matches the host's inner room.
Let's apply this in Section 4, the root of destiny.
Have you ever felt like bad luck is just relentlessly following you around? Like you just can't catch a break? The source argues that encountering villains, facing bullies, or going through continuous misfortunes, they aren't random punishments from some unfair universe. If you find yourself constantly surrounded by unhappy people or just ugly situations, the text says that's a direct symptom of a poor spiritual environment. It's not a coincidence, it's an environmental mismatch. Or actually, it's a perfect match to an inner state that desperately needs a cleanup.
And the text takes this a massive step further, scaling the whole concept up to the collective level. According to the source, major disasters, think earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, and plagues, they actually reflect a problem in the collective spiritual environment of the people living in that area. Again, we are reporting the text's deeply philosophical viewpoint here, but they are claiming that large-scale physical disasters are quite literally attracted by the collective macro-level mindset of a region.
So, the crucial point we're getting at is summarized perfectly in this quote from the text. Absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. The author uses a pretty blunt analogy for this. Pigs belong in pig pens and regular people struggle in the regular world. If you want an invitation to a magnificent fairy world banquet, or, metaphorically speaking, if you want an elevated, beautiful, serendipitous life, you cannot do it without a matching, beautifully cultivated inner environment. You simply don't get the invite if your inner world doesn't match the venue.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Cultivating the Heart's Garden.
All right, so how do we actually do this? The author gives us 3 concrete steps for purifying our mind and really upgrading that spiritual environment. Step 1, consciously restrain greed and rash actions. Step 2, hold kind thoughts and make sure you harbor 0 desire to harm others. And step 3, actively practice gratitude to attract noble people into your life. The source strongly emphasizes that doing this inner work is way more effective than endlessly chasing external connections, networking, or working yourself to the bone. The inner work literally does the heavy lifting for your outer reality.
So think of this as your gardener's checklist. Cherish life to make nature smooth, plant fruit trees to attract birds, grow flowers to attract butterflies, and be grateful to attract noble people. This beautifully ties that whole physical landscaping metaphor right back into actionable life advice. The text ultimately argues that building your beautiful inner environment isn't just a side hobby. It's the primary, absolute most important task of your entire life.
I want to end this explainer with this really beautiful, lingering thought straight from the source text. Fragrances will attract butterflies to flowers, and pure hearts will be frequented by celestial beings. It all comes down to what you are cultivating inside. So, what kind of garden are you growing in your mind today? Because whatever seeds you're planting right now are exactly what your future destiny is going to harvest. Thank you for joining me, Focus Learners. I really hope this inspires you to start gardening your own soul today.